The Phoenix Suns, the NBA Finals, 2021. Who would have guessed it? I was personally of the opinion that 2027 would have been a more accurate year to put these two terms together, but together those two terms are in 2021. And at this current moment in time, unless you're watching later, which is very likely, in that case, what's good with you? But yes, Phoenix is in the finals after a 26-39 record with little to no change in their roster. In fact, looking at the roster without any form of context whatsoever, you see Devin Booker, a 24-year-old that was a leading scorer on a bottom two team in the league for his entire career prior, a lottery 3-and-D draft pick from 2018, a 36-year-old Chris Paul sent out to Phoenix, the first pick in the Luka Doncic Trae Young draft, and Jay Crowder. Not a team that would necessarily excite. Now, before we continue, we're going to agree to put injuries aside, alright? We can argue that this is a plastic ring or whatever else, a bubble ring 2.0, whatever the circumstances. But at the end of the day, arguably the best team from the Eastern Conference is in the finals, and the Suns are there as well. Let's respect that. So how does this otherwise non-finals caliber looking roster make itself the second seed in the Western Conference and make it to the NBA Finals to become champions over the entire league? What's up, y'all? I'm KipKama11 and let's find out. This is the Phoenix Suns Explained. Now, before the season started, there were a lot of pundits and analysts and experts, whatever you want to call them, that were saying that the Phoenix Suns had a good chance of making the playoffs, a really good chance actually, and perhaps maybe possibly a deep run into the playoffs. Maybe. This, of course, was fueled by their 8-0 play in the bubble, and, of course, the acquisition of Chris Paul. Now, Chris Paul, albeit being 35 years of age, had just taken the Oklahoma City Thunder to 7 games against the Houston Rockets. Of course, the next natural progression after that was to go to a contender, and ending up with Phoenix, there was a good possible chance for that. But, of course, they were largely unproven. Despite all the questions of the team and of his age progression, Chris Paul was able to supplant the Suns with Chris Paul. From his spectacular passing, his elite level of control when it comes to scoring, his defense, there were many benefits that allowed Chris Paul to be arguably the best player of the Phoenix Suns, while sharing the backcourt with one of the most talented young guards in the league, Devin Booker. Now, Devin Booker beforehand was known just as a scorer. It's been some 4 years now since Devin Booker received the B legendary shoes from Kobe Bryant and effectively took the torch from him. But only now within the past 12 months has it actually converted into winning. Devin Booker as a bursting scorer with a ridiculously deep bag. From inside the restricted area to the mid-range to the three-point line to all sorts of different dribble moves in order to get to his spots, Devin Booker is a bucket and also a playmaker when necessary. Plus an elite awareness of the game that allows him to not only make those passing plays but also play defense on the other end. Then there's Jay Crowder, a guy who got some votes for all defense and is also a prolific three-point shooter depending on the game. I mean, if you catch him on the right game, he's gonna torch you. Otherwise, you're good. But as a 6'6" wing for the Suns, he was able to provide both that three-point spacing and also the defense. And then at the 4 spot, you have Mikal Bridges, a stretchy 3-and-D wing who Chris Paul said has been the MVP of the playoffs on both offense and defense, who has 3-point scoring and a little bit of a bag within the line as well, and spectacular defense. In fact, he was the first player left off the all-defensive team list, with 4 first-team all-defense votes and 31 second. And then finally, there's DeAndre Ayton, the man that holds it down for the Suns and is their primary role man for the squad, and is also the leading rebounder who's incredibly efficient around the basket. The other 2 players of note at the moment are Cameron Payne, the fill-in of Chris Paul, and is an insanely efficient passer and has clearly shown himself a scorer within past playoff games and also all the way back even in the bubble. And Cam Johnson, a guy that was selected in the 2019 NBA draft, that is a spectacular lights-out shooter that can play smart team defenses and is an absolute firecracker beyond the arc, I had to say it again, and provide spacing or just flat-out three-point scoring from the bench. Alright, that was a basic rundown of the power players that are in the finals playing for the Phoenix Suns. But how come this team works? Besides Jay Crowder and Chris Paul, none of these players had done anything in the playoffs before. In fact, they had never been part of a team that was over 500. So what's the thing that's overpowering the relative inexperience of this squad? Well, that'd be its structure. I mean, you have 2 elite playmakers or shot creators that can score from all 3 levels of the court and are able to make the pass to the open guy if necessary. Plus, you have 2 3-and-D arguably elites at both the 3 and the D that are not only able to clamp up the opposing team on the other side, but also provide the spacing possible to run pick and rolls with the elite rim roller and paint scorer that is the center of the team. In fact, that's a main point right there. You got 3.5 to 4 efficient shooters and smart shooters on the floor at all times, which is incredibly dangerous when you've got such an efficient scoring center. And not only that, but their 2 best players can shoot from anywhere, and that includes the mid-range. Within the last 25 years, the team that ends up winning the championship has at least one mid-range scorer that's elite, excluding the LeBron James Heat and the non-2014 Spurs. For some reason they were different, I'm not really sure why, but there's always been at least one mid-range scorer, someone who's able to break up the defense and hit from a range that makes the defender worry. If you watch Game 2 of the Finals versus Milwaukee, you could see how Chris Paul and Devin Booker, both mid-range elite shooters, would utilize that skill in order to slice up the Bucks defense, which is, by the way, the best defense in these playoffs. And the fact that they have 2 players that can do so is a lot rarer than you would think. In fact, the last and only time that there was at least 2 elite mid-range scorers on one championship team was the 2018 Golden State Warriors, with the duo of Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. If you're in some sort of conversation with that Golden State Warriors team in any type of way, clearly you're doing something right. The ability for them to have no weaknesses on offense because of their 2 best players having that mid-range range, and for their wings to be able to hit threes, and for their center to be incredibly ridiculously efficient around the rim, it allows for no cracks in the offense whatsoever and makes it terribly hard for a team to defend. And even though their pace is not that high relative to other teams, they're still able to slice up and score with the best of them. It's how they were able to maintain a top 7 offense throughout the season, but the more interesting dynamic is their top 7 ranked defense. 2 years ago, the Phoenix Suns were one of the worst defensive teams in the league, literally 29th or 30th. And within 2 short years, they were able to turn it around to where they had 4 players that received all defense votes. 2 of them on that same team that had that worst defense. And a lot of that had to do with Chris Paul, a defensive stalwart that was able to unlock the team's potential. With not only DeAndre Ayton, with whom he cited multiple times throughout the playoffs about his growth and his development and all, but also Mikal Bridges, who became a near all-defensive guard within just 1 year, able to utilize his length and awareness to be an elite perimeter defender. But the true magic behind their defense is their communication. Their team defense is one of the best in the league, which is why they're the 3rd best defensive team in these playoffs. And typically when a team is top 10 in both offense and defense, they've got something pretty good going. The interesting thing is they do that with Mikal Bridges as their 2nd leading scorer in the regular season and 3rd in the playoffs, which speaks to their scoring distribution. In the regular season, the Phoenix Suns almost had 6 players averaging double digits, and the same thing in the playoffs. These guys like moving the ball, and they like doing it efficiently as well. Since the regular season started, the Phoenix Suns have easily had the best assist-to-turnover ratio in the league, and also have remained in the top 3 assists per game. Now, of course, this is a Chris Paul-led team, that's something you would expect, but it also speaks to the amount of trust that they have for each other. The fact that like 80% of this roster had to slog through 3 years of not winning anything and quote-unquote and developing while winning 20 games definitely built a camaraderie amongst the people. And when they were in the bubble, they expounded upon that and showed that they could win on the high level. And that attracted Chris Paul, who stated that he wanted to go there in the offseason, and has been well received by the young core and, of course, the coach. The Phoenix Suns were an unlikely candidate, no matter which way you put it. No matter how magical Chris Paul seemed to be, it didn't seem that the Phoenix Suns would have the firepower to go all the way, judging from the past years. But they made the complete turnaround, shifted the culture, and used the benefits from their losing seasons in order to make them a stronger, more resilient team right now. Everyone knows their roles, and they excel in them. And having such an overpowered system the way that they do already had crafted them the mold of a champion. That foundation was already there. And like Monty Williams said,
don't let anybody take this away from you. You gain the respect of the league, okay? Now we gotta build on it.
And build on it, they did. Thanks for watching. All right, hold on. Before you go, I just want... Dang, that is tough to do. I know that I never do stuff like this, but I wanted to say that I'm sorry for being gone for 2 to 3 weeks. I had to take a whole leave from the cycle of YouTube and all that. It was sort of taking me in, you know, sucking me in, especially when you're not going as much as you're supposed to be going, you know what I mean? So I had to take a little bit of a break. But here, I got good news for you though. For the next 2 months, I'm gonna be uploading a video every 3 days. That's the goal at least. So they're not gonna be as I don't know if you call it high quality. I don't know if you guys really care about the quality regardless. But yeah, I just had to let y'all know. 3 videos for the next 2 months because I'm going to be going back to school by then and the videos frequency might go down. But yeah, you'll be expecting frequent uploads from me now. All right? All right then. All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. I'm going to see y'all. Or night or whatever it is.